Hello, everyone.
Yep.
Hello. Hi.
Sat Shri Akal and hello, everyone. Welcome to We Support Our Farmers. My name is Simran. I am one of the co-admins for this group and heavily invested in this like everybody else. And for the last few weeks, we've started doing panel discussions to talk about burning issues that sort of all of us are thinking about at the moment. And today we are very honored and very privileged to have our wonderful four panelists, and they are from different walks of life. They are doing different things, and it's a very varied sort of a panel. So we're very happy that we've got all of you with us. Most of you can watch this live. If you can't, we will upload it on YouTube, so you can watch it with your family and friends if you find it interesting enough. So I'm going to kickstart by introducing our panelists to you. Kanwaljeet, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟੇਢੇ ਦਿਸ ਰਹੇ
ਮੈਂ ਟੇਢਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਸੋ ਇਹ
That's better.
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਧਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ Okay. So I'm going to start with Rohit. Rohit is he's actually an educator, and he works with schools and runs workshops where he talks about the effects of bullying and how that can psychologically impair children and how in turn that affects our society. And he's also writes for The Wire. In fact, one of the articles that he wrote created quite a storm, and all of us, once we saw that article where he's given an acronym to the farmers, all of us were completely enamored by him, and we reached out to him. So he's now part of our panel. So thank you, Rohit. He's also worked in Tihar jail with the inmates for about 15 to 20 years. And he's also written a book on that. So I think that he's probably one of the best persons to talk about what's happening today in the current climate. We've got Ranjit Powar. Hi, Ranjit. Sat Shri Akal.
Hello.
So Ranjit is again a lady who wears many hats. She's done a PhD in psychology. She's a life skill coach. She's also written 2 books. She writes independently for many journals, and she's, I think, recently written something for the Quint. And she runs an NGO where she's educating rural children of villages and also training teachers to be more sympathetic and to be more understanding and more sensitive to problems that arise in rural villages. So very happy to have you with us, Ranjit. We've got Soumya. She's a young activist.
Hello.
She is she's a 4th year law student in Punjab University. She's also a student activist. I think she's a secretary of the All India Students Union of the Chandigarh wing. And interns with Pari Education. They write about rural India and rural villages. And she's also very, very active in the Morcha. In fact, a little bird has told me that she's been camping at the Morcha without even telling her parents. So I hope they're not watching. And then finally, we've got Kanwaljeet. Again, a gentleman with many, many accomplishments. He's an engineer by profession. He's also done his master's in philosophy. So I find that combination of head and the heart really quite interesting. And it gives you a different dimension, when you're working. He's also an activist. He's a spokesman for the Punjab Kisan Union. And
yes, Punjab Kisan Union.
And ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ so ਇੱਕ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ. Is everyone okay if I speak Hindi and Punjabi? Rohit, do you understand Punjabi?
Just about.
Okay.
Sorry.
Maybe Hindi then. Huh? So my Hindi is not very good, but I'll try. So बहुत देर से हम सोच रहे थे कि since the Morcha has started, we call it the Morcha, we call it the Satyagraha, we call it the Andolan, and each one of us in our own way has been affected by it. And I think as a society, we all have been completely consumed by it. I don't know about you, but I presume me per se, I am like totally invested in it. as a result of which I've actually lost some of my friends. I don't see people. I don't do my phone calls to my local people. When I finish work, which I do at about 5, 6 o'clock, I then get onto my laptop and then I'm tweeting and writing articles, posting things. So it's almost bordering to what we call as junoon, fatoor, obsession. And it क्यों हुआ है? इसका की कारण है? इसका क्या reason है? We are going to talk about that. कि society में इतना impact हुआ है इसकी क्या वजह है? और society में कैसे हुआ है इसका impact? You know, the socio-cultural impact of the Morcha on all of us and also on young people. So we'd love to hear from Soumya at some point. So Rohit, I'm going to start with you. You know, I've been reading about you and I've read that article, and I've also been watching some of the wonderful videos that you've been posting about hands-on groundwork that's being done at the Morcha. You are an educator and you talk about bullying, you know, about how bullying happens. I see a lot of parallels between what is happening today with the farmers and the government. What is your take on that? What do you think it's kind of bullying? Shall we start with that?
Yes, unfortunately, it's a very massive case of sustained bullying. But, you know, if I were to take the example of the classroom, so there are 4 kinds of people I've noticed in a classroom. There's the bully, who, have you noticed, never bullies alone. Yeah. He's always got 1 or 2 or 3 friends with him. And then there is the bullied, the person that he's bullying. Then there are 2 other kinds of people in the classroom who can either make or break the situation. The first I call the bystander. They just stand by and they watch the bullying happen, but they won't get involved because who wants to get in trouble, right? Let's just go through the day, do our assignments, go home, come back again. But all the while, somebody is getting bullied, somebody is getting hurt. So there's the bystander. And then there is the rare soul who is called the upstander. Bystander and the upstander. The upstander is the student or the child who will stand up for the person who's being bullied. And I think what we need right now are upstanders, like Soumya over here, who you know, has felt the pain of the bullied. And I think the real tragedy of our times is because the media is hardly covering the massive nature of this protest. A lot of people don't even realize what's going on over here. You know, a few days ago on Baisakhi, I went to Tikri border and I did something that I haven't done ever before. I got on the back of a scooter of another young fellow who has come from Jaipur. Wow. He is doing his media studies, you know, and I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a student, lekin mera college mein dil nahi lagta hai. Mere ko sirf yahan aake sukoon milta hai. Soumya, I think you know what he's talking about.
Wow. Yes,
you know, I feel exactly the same way. I feel peace, purpose when I'm with these people because they have all the qualities in a society. And so anyway, I sat behind this guy and let's go to the end of the Morcha. And we went on and on and on, and it wouldn't end. And I actually took a video of that entire drive. And in order to show that video, I had to speed up the video 20 times so that people wouldn't be sitting there for 20 minutes to watch it. So the protest is huge, and that's just at Tikri. Then there's Singhu, then there's Ghazipur, then there's Shahjahanpur. I've been to all of these places, and there's hundreds of thousands of people at the border, and a lot of, you know, nice, decent people in Delhi don't even know. And they're like, you know, so if I meet a friend after a while, and like you, I also don't have too many left because, you know, our interests are not jiving anymore so much. So, and they say, hey, where have you been? And I say, I've been to the border. And they genuinely ask with surprise, oh, the protest is still on? And I'm like,
my God.
it's still on.
Land. Oh, God.
Yeah, because the media is not covering it, right?
Hmm.
So I think we need people talking about this.
Hmm.
We need people raising their voices. We need people, I think, first and foremost, to understand what these farm laws are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to sort of, and a lot of people, you know, because what the media unfortunately has done is they've spun a few yarns and they've said these are only rich farmers.
Yes.
They're only farmers from Punjab and Haryana, and these are all spoiled people who don't want to work, you know, stuff like that. So I find it's very important, like, you know, to delve into the writings of P. Sainath, for example, Devinder Sharma. If you go to Mr. Devinder Sharma's book, you get all the background information. So I think for me, it's been an education to see how little we actually know about agriculture and about farmers. And I think the more we can read up on it, the more we can understand it, the better we'll be able to explain it to people, and the better standards we will be in better.
That's fantastic. I mean, I also personally find that lots of times when you try and explain the laws to people, they still haven't read them. And I can get it that it's a long read, but there are some very simplified versions. And despite sending articles to people that I think need to understand, they still don't. And it's just quite frustrating. But then I've started to think, let me not focus on that, you know, let me just focus on what I want to do.
That's right.
Just stay positive, instill positivity amongst people. And that's why I think, Ranjit, it'll be nice if you can talk us through, you know, how do you think this has impacted us as a society? What are the positives and negatives? I'm sure there are both. And Rohit and I had a little discussion about it. Kanwaljeet and I had a discussion about it. Let's just talk about how it has impacted us as a society. And then we'll come to Soumya about how it's impacted you as a young person.
Simran, the small state of Punjab, now it has shrunken to be a very small state. It used to be vast earlier. The social dynamics here are very different from many other states. And one needs to understand those dynamics which make this state tick. Of course, we all know that it is majorly an agrarian state.
Yes.
But the question just doesn't end there. Now, the point is, I'll tell you something very strange and funny. Somebody said, again, like Rohit just mentioned, that this is all about rich farmers.
Yes.
And frankly, nobody should even be embarrassed about being a rich farmer. If they can be super rich industrialists, it's no crime to be a rich farmer, which though in reality is just a minuscule of the total number of farmers. Exactly. If anybody would make an attempt even to read the statistics. So somebody said कि जी उत्थे जाओ ते उत्थे ते पजेरों खड़ियां होंदियां ने borders दे उत्ते जाओ मैं कहा जी जरूर खड़ियां होंदियां होणगियां ते ओदे च खराबी की है कहंदे ते ओ सारे अमीर फार्मर्स दियां ने मैं कहा नहीं ओ अमीर फार्मर्स दियां नहीं हैगियां हो भी सकदियां ने but farmers da तुसी समझदे नहीं कि it is not only the person जेड़ा ट्रैक्टर ते बैठ के खेत नूं जांदा है पंजाब दे विच इन्ने लोग ने जिन्हां दियां 3 पुश्तां ने फार्मिंग नहीं कीती बट वो हले भी फार्मर्स ने at their hearts like me like Simran like you know ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਈਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਫਾਰਮਰ ਹੀ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ in spirit and at heart ਮੇਰੀਆਂ 3 ਪੁਸ਼ਤਾਂ ਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਫਾਰਮਿੰਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ but we are just 6 and we shall always be farmers. Somehow our umbilical cord is still with the land. We might have very little land left now because it is not feasible even to have farming as a profession now. And people did go to other professions. Somebody went to the army, or one son might be abroad, and somebody might be farming or not be farming, but we will remain farmers. Therefore, our whole culture, our ethos, our social traditions, they all revolve around this concept of farming, which may not really translate into action as farmers. That is something which is different, which people need to understand. So now when this wave, or I'll call it a wave, it's a movement now, it's just not an agitation any longer. When this started, it snowballed and it brought out, the pains and the aches that Simran feels, that I feel, even though we are not farming. And it's like something is hitting at the very ethnicity and the ethos of our culture and society. Still, when we meet somebody, ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਪੁੱਛੀਦਾ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਹੋ?
ਕਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ?
It's strange. We are very urban people. And hale bhi a tendency hai कि नौकरियां करके साडे fathers would come back to their native villages and make a house and settle down there. We settled down similarly. My dad was in the army. We came back and settled down in our pind, which is Mithapur. And I still introduce myself if somebody says कि तुसी कित्थों हो? I say मैं Mithapur to. I don't say I'm from Jalandhar, though it is part of Jalandhar now. So that is the kind of the way, that we are connected to our land. Now, if these three laws were to come into action, they would tear apart the society, the farming society, as never before. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਜੜ੍ਹਾਂ ਹਿਲ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਨੀਹਾਂ ਹਿਲ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀਆਂ, ਸਾਡੀ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੀਆਂ. That is why I feel that there is a direct threat to financial and cultural stability of Punjab. Because Punjabis have fought with every drop of their blood for this land that we are on, because we have been the people taking on the aggressors and the Afghanis and the various other people who have been attacking us. We have fought for this land with our blood and soul.
Yes.
And so if we are not used to being to work as slaves for somebody else, and now they feel threatened that they will be enslaved to the large companies. And if Punjabis don't work like that, it's not in their genes to ji hazur somebody else. So oda ki asar hoga? Already the youngsters are looking to go abroad. There will be a huge major exodus.
I just wanted to bring Rohit. I think you raised your hand. Were you wanting to?
Yeah. I wanted to add to something that Ranjit said. The thing about Punjabis have fought for this country. They've bled and died for this country. I have never seen, and I'm not exaggerating, this is not hyperbole over here to make a point, I have never seen as many national tricolor flags in one place as I have seen at the borders over the last 4 months.
Great.
I mean, don't tell me these people don't love India. I have seen a massive Indian flag. The government has made such a thing about hoisting these gigantic tricolors. You should see the tricolors flying at the borders. And there is no question about that.
But I also wanted to say that while we are talking here about Punjabiyat and apne khet aur apna bahut yogdan hai Punjabis da, but ye jehdi movement hai, this is not just about Punjab. People need to understand that. And that's why we were talking about the Mahapanchayats in our last discussion, because it's way beyond that. It's much bigger than that. And people look at Soumya. She's from Chhattisgarh, and she is studying in Punjab. She can't even speak Punjabi very well, है ना? If you ask how did you get involved and what is your experience about being there and what has propelled you to write that beautiful article you wrote for Pari, and you're raising your voice. आपने अपने पेरेंट्स को भी नहीं बताया कि आप कहाँ हो. That makes me laugh. But yeah, let's hear your story.
So, as in the beginning, you said that in the entire process of getting involved in farmers movement from the place you are, you feel so passionate that each evening when you come down from work, you start looking up for news article, you start looking up for tweets. And in this process, you've also lost your friends and you don't go out anymore. And the way you see life has changed. This is happening with a lot of people. Like as Sir said, he met a student from Lucknow University who just came there because he wanted to be at a place where he would feel peace in his heart.
Yes.
People are feeling so passionately about farmers' protest. People like me are feeling so passionately about farmers' protest because we have had it to our breath. So from the time of GST and demonetization and everything, we have just have a lot of master strokes or master jokes, whatever to call them. And in this farmers movement, we see if not to exaggerate and call it a revolution, at least we see a ray of hope. We see dissent, we see people coming together. And there are so many women actually who are coming out. So in the farmers' protest, when I came all the way from Chhattisgarh, I thought that maybe I am the only mad one who's coming and not telling parents and coming in the name of some internship and then camping at protest site. But I met a girl from Madhya Pradesh who came for making a documentary movie. Her name was Upasna. And I asked her what sort of, she was also from media studies, and I asked her what sort of documentary movie are you making or what is the project about? And she said, I basically just wanted to be at the farmer protest site and I didn't know what to tell to my parents. So I named that it was a documentary site, and she was also doing her work. But her main purpose was to be at the farmers protest site and to be, because back in Indore, from where she came from, she saw Munawwar Farooqi getting arrested and Shivraj Singh Chauhan competing with Yogi Adityanath to prove like who's the most Sanghi out there. And when we are having all love jihad and all the anti-women bad things are going on in this country right now. So yes, we have added up to our brims. We cannot sit anymore. So we have become Andolan Jeevi in a way, because we go to wherever the protest site is and we feel so passionately about it. And about what you said, that it is not all about Punjabis, although a lot of strength comes from Punjab in this protest. But it's not all about Punjabis. In the words of P. Senad, with whom I am working in these days right now in Pari, he says that what mandis or what APMC does for farming or agriculture is what government schools does for education.
That's
Now
right.
we know that government schools do not bring a lot to education, but millions and millions of students just get educated by getting into a government school, right? So instead of strengthening the APMC, now what they're doing is, and whatever they're saying about MSP and that people are getting free money and farmers are becoming greedy and that's why they're protesting, there are just 22 food supplies in which you get MSP, out of which rice and grain and makkah are the main ones. So which are mostly grown in Western UP, Haryana and Punjab. Therefore, more of the outburst from there. What I see from so the APMC of Chhattisgarh and Bihar are so weakened that the farmers of those areas cannot even organize themselves to agitate, because they don't have that support that if they will go out for a protest, they can sustain their families for another 6 months, which still in some sense Punjab protesters or Punjab farmers have. So so instead of strengthening APMC and making it has taken a step in a very wrong direction, and it is taking us a leap backward in farming and in agriculture. So people are getting it and people are coming forward about it.
So what we're getting is obviously everyone is affected. All of us, we've spoken about that. I was just talking to Rohit in the morning. It's almost like a burnout. And when I was growing up in Chandigarh, I was a very, in those days, it was cool to listen to Neil Diamond and listen to, English music. And then when you come abroad, when you start to come and live abroad, you have this very exaggerated sense of patriotism. You start thinking about meri country, mera roots, this, that. But since the farmers' protest, I mean, I've started listening to Sukhjinder Chinda and, not in a bad way, but I'm just saying this is the cultural impact it's had on me as a person. I'm reading Punjabi poetry. I know how to write Punjabi, but I never thought I'd start reading a book in Punjabi. So this is, I don't know if it's frivolous, whatever you may call it, but it suddenly ignited that passion that I should know my Ma Boli. I should understand. So I'm doing part from the Gutka, which I've not done in years. And because sometimes I think when I see our farmers sitting in the cold and the heat, I think we need divine intervention. Nothing is happening. और कुछ नहीं तो अरदास ही कर लो कि क्या पता है इससे कोई फर्क पड़े. And I was talking to a lady in America yesterday. Her daughter was recovering from an illness, and they set up a little charity foundation. And all her American friends have said to her, we are donating to the farmers' protest. We don't want to give you any presents. We are donating to the farmers' protest. And that's to the extent of how we've been affected. So I'm glad, Kanwaljeet, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਏ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸੋ, what is your take on it? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਨੇ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ activism ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. What has changed? ਇਹ ਵਾਲਾ protest ਪੁਰਾਣੀਆਂ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ activities ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ different ਹੈ? ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੋਕੀ involved ਨੇ? What is your take on it? I can't hear you.
Unmute Nikita.
Oh. Sorry.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
जी. तो मैंने जो मेरे से पहले बोलने वाले सभी वक्ताओं को काफी ध्यान से सुना है.
Okay.
तो ये ठीक है कि प्रोटेस्ट को सब लोग अपने अपने तरीके से देख रहे हैं. जैसे पंजाबियत भी उघड़ के उमड़ के सामने आई है इस दौर में. लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि जो रियल में जो इस प्रोटेस्ट के टेक अवेज रहेंगे वो सिर्फ पंजाबियत नहीं है. पंजाबियत हमारे पास थी, पहले भी थी. मतलब इट्स नॉट अ प्रोटेस्ट की जिसने हमें बताया पंजाबियत क्या है. प्रोटेस्ट ने हमें ये बताया हम पंजाबी लोग क्या कर सकते हैं. प्रोटेस्ट जो है वो हमें यहाँ ले आया कि हम लोग जब मिल जाएं, बिकॉज मुझे लगता है कि एक बड़ी पीढ़ी है, एक कम से कम 2-3 पीढ़ियां हैं पिछली, जिन्होंने कोई बड़ी मूवमेंट नहीं देखी थी, जिन्होंने लंबे समय से कोई बड़ी चेंज नहीं देखी थी. सिर्फ किताबों में पढ़ा था कि आज़ादी का संघर्ष हुआ या उसके बाद कुछ किसान संघर्ष हुए, या पीछे अगर कोई बड़ी मूवमेंट किसी ने थोड़ी बहुत देखी थी, सोशल चेंज जो लाती हुई महसूस हुई थी, तो अन्ना हजारे का करप्शन वाला पूरा था, या फिर उसके बाद अगर कहीं थोड़ा बहुत नजर आया था वो था निर्भया. लेकिन इतना मैसिव जो प्रोटेस्ट का रेंज अभी हुआ कि निर्भया में आने वाले लोग भी ऐसा लगता होता था कि वो लोग अपने आप को बहुत सोच समझ के पॉलिटिकली करेक्ट पोजीशंस ले रहे हैं, फेमिनिस्ट पोजीशंस को अंडरस्टैंड कर रहे हैं, अलग अलग एंगल से विमेन रिप्रेशन को समझ रहे हैं. लेकिन जब ये प्रोटेस्ट में हम देखते हैं तो 80-80 साल की बूढ़ी माताएं, ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि वो किसी चीज को आर्टिकुलेट करने वहां आई हैं, वो सिंपली आ गई हैं. तो ऐसे ही बहुत ही यंग बच्चे और यूथ वो वहां पहुंचा है, तो ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि उनको कोई फिनोमिना समझने के लिए उसमें आना है. सिर्फ ऐसे लोग भी हैं, सौम्या ने ठीक कहा, ऐसे भी लोग हैं जिनको एक फिनोमिना नजर आ गया और वो उस फिनोमिना का पार्ट बनने आए हैं. लेकिन जो मास फिनोमिना हो रहा है, जो मास स्केल पे इस वक्त हो रहा है, वो है वो लोग हु आर डूइंग द थिंग्स, जो डूइंग जिनके लिए बहुत बड़ा मामला बन गया कि ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है जिसमें हमें कुछ करना है. अगर और मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, मैं एक चार्ट पेपर के ऊपर आई सपोर्ट फार्मर्स लिख के चंडीगढ़ के किसी चौक पे खड़ा हो जाऊंगा. मतलब दिस इज द काइंड ऑफ थिंग पीपल आर डूइंग. So people are looking for their roles in the social change. तो ये मुझे लगता है कि एक नई चीज है जिसमें हमारे यूथ, मतलब मेरा जो पहला इनकाउंटर इस प्रोटेस्ट के साथ हुआ, चंडीगढ़ के बगल में एक गांव है, उसका नाम है सूक. ये चंडीगढ़ से बिल्कुल बगल में ही है. जब हम लोग अभी पंजाब में ही थे, दिल्ली नहीं गए थे, उससे पहले की ये बात है, तो हम लोग एक मीटिंग करवाने उस गाँव में गए. तो उस वक्त अभी कोई बड़ा मूवमेंट नहीं सामने आई थी, तो मैंने ऐसे ही मीटिंग में बोला. शुरू में बहुत सारे यंग लड़के आए, हमने गुरुद्वारे के स्पीकर में अनाउंस किया कि अभी मीटिंग हो रही है किसान प्रोटेस्ट के सवाल पे, तो सब लोग आइए. तो वहां पे बड़ी जल्दी में ही बहुत सारे लोग इकट्ठे हो गए. अब जब बहुत सारे लोग आए तो उसमें बहुत सारे यंग लड़के ही थे ज्यादातर. तो मैंने कहा कि आप में से तो ज्यादातर उस उम्र में हैं जिन्होंने कभी किसी प्रोटेस्ट का, किसी यूनियन का पार्ट बन के नहीं देखा होगा. तो अचानक एक लड़के ने हाथ खड़ा किया, उसने कहा मैं गया हूँ जी प्रोटेस्ट में. अच्छा, मैंने कहा आप कब गए थे, कहाँ गए थे? तो उसने कहा कि अभी पिछले 3-4 दिन पहले ही गए थे. मैंने कहा कैसे गए थे? तो कहता हम पटियाला में गए थे। मैंने कहा यहाँ से पटियाला करीब 80 किलोमीटर पड़ता है, तो वहां तुम किसी तुम्हारे पापा या कोई यूनियन में है, किसी किसान यूनियन में? तो उसने कहा नहीं, मैंने फेसबुक में चेक किया था कि नियरेस्ट प्रोटेस्ट कहाँ हो रहा है, तो मुझे पता चला पटियाला में हो रहा है। तो हम 6-7 लोग गांव के, हम मेरे साथ मेरे दोस्त भी थे, तो हम सब लोग ट्रैक्टर पे चढ़ के मतलब 80 किलोमीटर पटियाला पहुंचे प्रोटेस्ट में अटेंड करने के लिए। फ्रॉम द वेरी पॉइंट मैं आज तक समझता हूँ कि वही डायलॉग था उस लड़के का इस पर्टिकुलर प्रोटेस्ट के दौर में, जो जिसने मुझे महसूस करवा दिया था कि ये मूवमेंट बहुत बहुत गहरी है, ये मूवमेंट बहुत नीचे है, इस मूवमेंट की जड़ें जो हैं वो बहुत नीचे जा चुकी हैं। ये मुझे कम से कम उस दिन की उस डायलॉग से समझ में आया था। तो इससे मेरे को, और अगर मैं कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशंस रखूं क्विकली अपनी, तो जो एक मुझे चीज लगी कि जो गांव के अंदर हमारे एक सिंथेटिक किस्म की डिविजन्स बनी हुई थी। पंजाब में आमतौर पे गांव के अंदर पहले 2 धड़े हुआ करते थे, एक अकालीज का, एक कांग्रेसियों का, और फिर जब आम आदमी पार्टी आई फिर एक तीसरा धड़ा भी बन गया। या कभी कभी किसी किसी गांव में कुछ लोग क्लेम करते हैं कि ये कामरेड है। तो मतलब यही रफ डिवीजन है पंजाब के किसी भी गांव के। या अगर हम दुआबा के अंदर चले जाएं, जो जलंधर वाला एरिया या उधर, तो वहां पे आपको दलित मूवमेंट के लोग भी मिल जाएंगे। सो ये जनरल एक डिवीजन थी पंजाब में, और ये डिवीजन बड़ी हार्ड एंड हार्श थी। मतलब लोग इस डिवीजन के आर पार नहीं जाते थे कि मेरे बापू जी तो कांग्रेसी रहे हैं तो हम तो सारा परिवार कांग्रेसी परिवार है। मतलब दे विल नेवर डिस्कस कि व्हाट कांग्रेस इज ऑल अबाउट, दे विल नेवर डिस्कस व्हाट अकालीज इज ऑल अबाउट, दे विल नेवर डिस्कस व्हाट कॉमरेड्स आर सेइंग, दे विल सिंपली से दैट क्योंकि हमारा परिवार उधर है। सो ये एक बहुत ही सिंथेटिक डिविजन्स थी जिसको लोगों ने खुद अपने लिए नेगोशिएट नहीं किया होता था, जो पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी एक तरह से गांव की पावर पॉलिटिक्स का, पावर इक्वेशंस में से एक पर्टिकुलर नेगोशिएशन जो है उसमें से निकली हुई थी। और ये पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी आगे आगे परिवार चलती थी। एक परिवार में अगर लड़ाई हो गई है तो एक भाई कांग्रेसी है तो दूसरा अकालीज में जाएगा, ऐसी ऐसी ये डिविजन्स थी। तो इस प्रोटेस्ट ने ये तोड़ दी। ये हुआ, इस प्रोटेस्ट ने इसको बुरे तरीके से तोड़ दिया जब ये कॉल आ गई कि हम लोग हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का, जो रूलिंग पार्टीज हैं उनका विरोध करेंगे। तो उसके बाद ये स्पेस जो है, हालांकि इसका एक और इम्पैक्ट है जिसकी हम बात कर सकते हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं इससे डीपॉलिटिसाइजेशन का एक एंगल भी नजर आता है। लेकिन फिर भी जब आपके पास बहुत ही चीजें जो है वो जड़ हो गई हो, तो उनको तोड़ने के लिए ऐसी एनार्किक स्वीपिंग स्टेटमेंट्स कई बार काम करती हैं, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। ओवर डिकेड्स ऐसा होता है। तो वो मेरे को लगता है कि ये काम हुआ इस प्रोटेस्ट के दौरान कि लोगों ने कहा कि किसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को हम नहीं एंटरटेन करेंगे। मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल छोटी सी और देता हूँ कि यहाँ हमारे चंडीगढ़ सेक्टर 17 के अंदर 8 तारीख को बंद था, मुझे याद नहीं किस महीने की, 3-4 महीने पहले का ऑल इंडिया का बंद था। तो मेरी ड्यूटी लगी थी, मैं चंडीगढ़ वाला देख रहा था उस दिन। तो हम लोगों ने एक बड़ी ट्रॉली में स्टेज लगा ली 17 के प्लाजा में, और वहां पे बहुत हजारों लोग इकट्ठे हुए थे। तो उस दिन वही प्रोटेस्ट, एक पत्रकारों का भी छोटा सा प्रोटेस्ट था, पत्रकार सारे मीडिया वाले लोग वहां थे। तो उस प्रोटेस्ट में सेफली क्या हुआ कि जो ये हैं अपने बलबीर सिंह सिद्धू मिनिस्टर हैं अभी प्रेजेंटली, वो वहां पहुंच गए। सुनील जाखड़ प्रेसिडेंट हैं कांग्रेस के, तो वो वहां पहुंच गए। और एक व्यक्ति जो अकाली दल का पहला बड़ा नाम रहा, मजीठिया, वो वहां पहुंच गया। तो ये तीनों पत्रकारों के प्रोटेस्ट में पीछे आके खड़े हो गए। अब पत्रकार भाई साहब जो स्टेज चला रहे थे, तो स्टेज सेक्रेटरी के ऊपर काफी प्रेशर बन गया कि बड़ी बड़ी हस्तियां आके मेरे प्रोटेस्ट में खड़ी हो गई हैं। तो ही जस्ट एक्नॉलेज्ड, उसने सिर्फ इतना कहा कि देखिए हालांकि हमारा प्रोटेस्ट तो पूरी तरह से नॉन पॉलिटिकल है, लेकिन देखिए फिर भी ये बड़े लोग हैं और नेता हैं, ये आकर के पीछे खड़े हो गए हैं। इट्स सो ग्रेट ऑफ देम कि ये बिल्कुल निम्रता से पीछे आके खड़े हो गए हैं। तो उसने 3 बार इनका नाम ले दिया, बलबीर सिंह सिद्धू का, मजीठिया का और इनका सुनील जाखड़ का। अब तीसरी बार जब उसने कहा तो प्रोटेस्ट में से कुछ लोगों ने एकदम से इस बात पे फिर प्रोटेस्ट किया। उन्होंने कहा ये क्या मतलब है, हम मूर्ख हैं क्या जो नीचे बैठे हुए हैं, ये महान आत्माएं आ गई, ये तो वो लोग हैं जो आज तक इन्हीं कानूनों को जिनके खिलाफ हम यहाँ प्रोटेस्ट करने आए हैं, इनको लेके आने वाले लोग हैं, और तुम इन्हीं का बार बार एक्नॉलेज किए जा रहे हो। तो इतना लेके एक बंदे ने नारे लगाने शुरू किए, नीले बगले चिट्टे मोर, ए भी चोर ओ भी चोर, एंड दे हैड नो वे कि हम यहाँ से निकलें कैसे। वो उल्टे पैरों तीनों के तीनों वहां से लोगों ने भगा दिया उनको। मतलब आई लिटरली सॉ पीपल चेजिंग देम अवे। उनको इतनी बुरी उनके साथ जीवन में कभी नहीं हुई होगी, और हमें बड़ा मजा आया। मतलब इन लोगों के साथ ऐसा होना ही चाहिए था कम से कम। तो ऐसे ही बहुत सारे इंस्टांसेस इस प्रोटेस्ट के दौरान जगह जगह मिले। तो इसमें से द पॉइंट आई वांट टू बिल्ड इज, जो चेंज की आप बात करते हैं, ये चेंज डिकेड्स में होनी होती है, लेकिन ये दिनों में हुई। यही का प्रोटेस्ट ने काम किया कि डिकेड्स की चेंज जो है वो दिनों में की। वो डिकेड की चेंज ये थी कि जो लोगों ने ये सोच लिया था कि ये लोग तो जैसे वो बंगाली लोग बोलते हैं भद्र लोग हैं, ये तो जेंटलमैन नोबल लोग हैं, बड़े लोग हैं, सो दे आर नेवर टू बी चैलेंज्ड। तो इस प्रोटेस्ट के दौरान ये हुआ कि दे वर चैलेंज्ड, एंड दे वर चैलेंज्ड बाय पीपल ऑफ एज ऑफ 20s, 22, 24, 25. This age group has challenged these people openly. और ये कहा गया उनको कि अब हम तुम्हारी आंख की शर्म जो हुआ करती थी उसको नहीं मानेंगे, अब हम इस बात को नहीं मानेंगे कि तुम लोगों को जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ योर रिस्पेक्ट तुम्हारे को मुंह पे हम नहीं बोलते थे और हम पीछे से बोलते थे। तो अब ये हुआ, इस प्रोटेस्ट ने किया कि अब हम मुंह पे बोलते हैं। तो ये मुंह पे बोलना जो एक टेक अवे है हमारा। तो ऐसे ही मुझे लगता है, कुछ मैं क्विकली, शायद मैं टाइम ज्यादा ले रहा हूँ, मैं क्विकली पॉइंट्स मेक करता हूँ कि जेंडर रोल चेंज।
हाँ जी, नहीं, before we lose track, Rohit, you may forget what you were wanting to say. Was it?
Yes, it actually goes along with what Kanwaljeet was just saying.
About gender?
21, 22, 23 साल के जो लोग हैं, मेरा तजुर्बा है कि 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 साल के लोग भी इस प्रोटेस्ट पे आए हैं। मैं गाजीपुर जो प्रोटेस्ट है, मैं बिल्कुल जैसे वो कड़ाके वाली सर्दी का दिन था और वहाँ एक एलिवेटेड पोर्शन है दिल्ली मेरठ हाईवे का, जिसके नीचे काफी सारे ताऊ बैठे हुए थे, अपने हुक्के स्मोक कर रहे थे, एंड दे वर वार्मिंग देयर हैंड्स ऑन द फायर, एंड देयर वाज दिस यंग फेलो वेरी इंटेंटली रीडिंग अ पैम्फलेट. So I went up to him and I said, आपकी उम्र क्या है? He says 14 साल. I said, तुम यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो? He said, ये मैं किसान भाइयों के साथ आने खड़ा. And it took me a while to sort of wrap my head around it.
Wow.
So, and I was filming him and I didn't know what to ask him. So I asked him the stock question that people ask. I said, इस वक्त आपको कैसा लग रहा है? As cliched as that question is. And you know what this 14-year-old boy said? He says, मुझे कैसा लगेगा? He said, लगना तो सरकार को चाहिए.
Wow.
And then he said, I said, this guy was like throwing such bouncers that I didn't know what to say again. So I said, आपको लगता नहीं है आप थोड़े young हैं यहाँ आने के लिए? And then he said, समर्थन की कोई उम्र नहीं होती.
My God, such big words. Wow.
समर्थन की कोई उम्र नहीं, 14 साल का बच्चा है. Okay, so 2 weeks later, I went back to Gazipur, and this boy was, he was not from a very well-to-do background. वो दिख रहा था. 2 weeks later, if you remember when that whole incident happened, when Rakesh Tikayat got quite emotional,
yes,
right? And a lot of farmers came. The morning after that, or I think maybe it was 2 mornings after that, I went there to see what was happening. And I saw somebody who was obviously a teenager and obviously somebody from a fairly well-to-do background. And she and 2 of her friends were just standing there holding up a poster.
Okay.
And the words on the poster were, "Zulmi jab jab zulm karega satta ki galiyaron se, chappa chappa goonj uthega inqilab ke naron se."
Wow.
And I said, and I thought ये कोई MA वगैरह, MPhil वगैरह कर रही होंगी ये. So I said, so how old are you? She said, I'm 18. I'm in class 12. And her friend was in first year college, and their other friend was in class 12th as well. So school kids are coming up. So what Kanwaljeet was saying is absolutely true. This is actually sort of bringing people together across income levels, across caste lines. और आप देखेंगे सभी मोर्चों पे आपको एक तंबू दिखाई देगा, जाट मुस्लिम एकता जिंदाबाद. आपको एक और दिखेगा, पंजाब हरियाणा एकता जिंदाबाद, किसान मजदूर एकता जिंदाबाद. I'll quickly say one thing and then back to you. Sorry, I'm taking a little longer.
Oh, no, it's very emotional. You made us very emotional.
I guess, okay, so Shahjahanpur border, it's the furthest away. वो तो गुड़गांव से भी 1.5 घंटा आगे है. और अब जैसे आप सिंगू को देखेंगे वो जीटी करनाल रोड पे है, टिकरी को देखेंगे वो रोहतक रोड पे है. So it's mostly people from the north coming. But at Shahjahanpur border, where you don't have a lot of coverage, I've noticed There are people from literally all over the country. So I went just around the time winter was turning to spring, and I saw these gentlemen standing there, you know, just outside their tent in lungis.
Okay.
And I said, "Aap kahan se hain?" They said, "Hum Kerala se hain.
Wow.
Hum Pinarayi Vijayan ke gaon se hain." And I said, "आप यहाँ क्या कर रहे हैं? आपको क्या प्रॉब्लम है जो आप यहाँ आए?" They almost got offended.
Okay.
And they said, हमको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, हमको केरला में 14 फसलों पे MSP मिलता है, हमको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। I said, तो फिर आप यहाँ क्यों आए हैं? He said, हम अपने नॉर्थ इंडिया के किसान भाइयों के साथ खड़े होने आए हैं।
Wow.
I said, आप यहाँ जयपुर हाईवे पे, and you know there are trucks and buses going,
Yeah.
and it's dusty and dirty and hot and dry.
Yes.
And I said, आप यहाँ तंबू में रह रहे हैं? He said, हम नहीं सिर्फ तंबू में रहेंगे, हम जमीन से खाना खाने के लिए तैयार हैं। I said, लेकिन आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आप इससे अफेक्टेड नहीं है। He said, अगर हम दूसरे की तकलीफ के साथ नहीं खड़े हो सकते तो आप हमको इंसान कैसे कह सकते हैं?
So that's amazing. That brings us back to your upstander pala point, है ना?
Yeah.
There are so many bystanders, and I'm so sorry, Kanwaljeet, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ मैं cut short कर देता. You were
Sorry.
talking about gender.
जी, मैं बस एक दो पॉइंट्स ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਰੱਖੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ put on record ਕਿ ਜੈਂਡਰ ਰੋਲਸ ਨਵੇਂ ਦੇਖੇ। ਯੂਥ ਆਮ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਯੂਥ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਸੋਈ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੇਲ ਡੋਮੀਨੈਂਟ ਵਰਜ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਤੇ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਬੜੀ ਜ਼ਬਰਦਸਤ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੇਂजेस ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਦੇਖੀਆਂ। मतलब वी सॉ के यंगस्टर्स जो हैं वो खाना बनाते हुए नॉट ओनली की मजबूरी में बना रहे हैं, स्लोली दे स्टार्टेड फीलिंग कि घर में औरतें जो हैं वो तो कितना मतलब ये तो बड़ा डिफिकल्ट काम है जो लगातार सालों से करती आ रही हैं, दे नेवर कंप्लेन्ड। तो एटलीस्ट एक एम्पैथी, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि अभी बहुत ही उनका कोई वर्जन एक डेवलप हो गया होगा, कोई नया फेमिनिस्ट पंजाब इसमें से खड़ा हो जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं है, लेकिन मुझे ये जरूर लगता है कि उसके लिए ग्राउंड कम से कम तैयार होना शुरू हुआ। दूसरा मुझे ये भी लगा कि वहाँ पे बहुत सारे अब यूथ है, पूरा यंगस्टर्स ग्रुप्स में इकट्ठे, दे फील एम्पावर्ड है ना। उनको आमतौर पे पंजाब में ऐसा माना जाता है जब मेले पे जाते हैं यंगस्टर्स तो लड़ेंगे, मतलब इकट्ठे होके जा रहे हैं ना ग्रुप बना के, तो ऐसा होता है कि हम अब इतने तकड़े हैं, हम किसी से भी पंगा ले सकते हैं, तो किसी ने हमारी तरफ टेढ़ा कैसे देख लिया तो लड़ाई हो जाएगी। तो वहां पे अब देखो इस किस्म की लड़ाई कोई नहीं हुई। तो ये कैसे हुआ? या तो हर मेले में लड़ाइयां होती थी, हर बड़े इकट्ठ में ग्रुप क्लैश, पीयर ग्रुप्स के आपस में क्लैश वो होने होते थे, तो वो बिल्कुल नजर ही नहीं आ रहे हैं। तो इट्स समथिंग न्यू हैपनिंग। और दूसरा वहां पे जैसे सिंघू की अगर मैं बात करूं तो सिंघू में कम से कम नहीं तो 4 से 5 हजार यंग लड़के लड़कियां जो सुबह सुबह वहां से निकल के ड्यूटी जाते हैं, क्योंकि वो इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया दोनों तरफ, तो वो काम पे जाते थे और वो हमारी ट्रॉलीज के बीच में से निकल के ही जाते थे। तो कभी मतलब लंबे समय तक ये कम से कम कंप्लेंट नहीं आई कि किसी ने किसी को छेड़ दिया होगा या कुछ कोई इस तरह का कोई अनफॉर्चुनेट इंसिडेंट हुआ हो। ये लंबे समय तक कभी कोई रिपोर्ट अभी तक नहीं आई है इस तरह की। हालांकि कुछ अभी जैसे सौम्या वगैरह ने जो वहां पे सवाल उठाए हैं पिछले दिनों, वैसा भी कुछ सामने आया है जो कि, लेकिन वो मास फिनोमिना के तौर पे जो हुआ करता था पंजाब में कि 4 लड़के इकट्ठे खड़े हैं, पास से कोई लड़की जा रही है तो कमेंट करेंगे ही करेंगे, ये इस पे रोक लगी। कम से कम दिस पॉइंट दे इमीडिएटली दे वर फीलिंग लाइक दे आर एम्बेसडर्स ऑफ पंजाब। उनको लग रहा है कि हम एम्बेसडर्स हैं यहाँ पे, द इज्जत ऑफ पंजाब रेस्ट ऑन शोल्डर्स। तो ऐसा एक फील जो है लिया यंगस्टर्स ने लिया। एक चीज जो मैं जरूर कहना चाहता हूँ कि जिस बात पे उनको फिर गर्व करने के लिए, जैसे अभी मैडम पवार ने कहा कि आफ्टर ऑल तो पंजाबियत पे गर्व करने की बात भी आई इसमें कहीं ना कहीं। अच्छा, फर्स्ट टाइम वी फाउंड कि बीइंग जट समथिंग रियली प्राइड वाली बात, क्योंकि अब तक तो हम पंजाबी गानों में जट के बारे में, उसमें तो शर्म आती थी कि ऐसे होते हैं जट जो गोली चला देते हैं कहीं भी, जो किसी को भी मार देते हैं, बंदा मार के रोटी खान देने जड़े। सो ऐसे तो जट है ही नहीं है, हम तो नहीं होंगे कम से कम। तो ऐसा, लेकिन पहली बार जट होने में प्राइड वाली बात भी कहीं ना कहीं लोगों को एक रियल बात के लिए प्राइड की बात आई। लेकिन साथ ही मैं इस बात को क्वेश्चन करना जरूर चाहूंगा कि जो हमें बड़ी जल्दी नजर आ गया था कि दिस प्राइड इज पोलराइजिंग द होल सोसाइटी, क्योंकि इस प्राइड से रिएक्शन बढ़ा है पंजाब के अंदर इस प्राइड के विक्टिम बहुत हैं पंजाब में। ऐसा नहीं है पंजाब में सिर्फ जट रहते हैं, 19% आबादी है जट्टों की पंजाब में, बाकी आबादी 37% दलित आबादी है पंजाब में। दे हैव बीन विक्टिम ऑफ दिस फॉल्स प्राइड। तो उन लोगों को जब ये प्राइड सुनता है तो उनके दिमाग में सबसे पहली बात क्या आती है कि ये वही जटौड़ है। दिस इज द वर्ड यू यूज, जटौड़ है बिगड़ी हुई, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਤੰਗ ਕਰਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵਟਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਤੰਗ करती रही है। सो दे फील टेरराइज्ड। तो इस बात को हम लोगों ने बड़ी जल्दी रियलाइज किया कि ये जट वाला प्राइड जो है, दिस विल ओनली आइसोलेट द मूवमेंट, दिस विल ओनली आइसोलेट द किसान। सो दिस हैज टू बी अबंडेंट। तो उसकी बजाय कोई नया प्राइड उसकी जगह लेना चाहिए, और वो किसान प्राइड एक मुझे लगता है एक न्यू काइंड ऑफ, जो मोदी का नेशनलिज्म जो चल रहा था उसकी टक्कर में किसानों का एक नेशनलिज्म उभरा, जो अभी बात रोहित जी ने सुनाई कि एक केरला का किसान इसलिए आता है कि मैं नॉर्थ के भाइयों के साथ खड़े होने के लिए यहाँ आया हूँ, बिकॉज मेरे पे डायरेक्टली इम्पैक्ट हो ना हो। और एक लास्ट पॉइंट मेरा रहना जाए जो वो है कि यूथ में जो हम, क्योंकि हमारा टॉपिक कल्चरल चेंजेस वाला था, तो झंडा और बैज और स्लोगन और धरना और रैली, ये 3-4 कीवर्ड्स हैं जिनको यूथ सरकास्टिकली देखा करता था। दे थॉट कि ये धरने धुरने मारने वाले ऐसे होते हैं, ये झंडा झुंडा उठाने में शर्म आती थी, बैज लगाना तो मतलब बूढ़ों का काम है, यंगस्टर्स नेवर फाउंड इट वेरी ट्रेंडी टू वेयर अ बैज। लेकिन अभी तो मारा मारी हुई बैज के लिए पिछले दिनों, स्टिकर गाड़ी के लगाने के लिए, झंडा गाड़ी के ऊपर लगाने के लिए, पूरा एक दूसरे से कि मुझे एक झंडा दे दो प्लीज, आप अपनी गाड़ी में से उतार के दे दो, आप तो कहीं और से भी ले लोगे, आप तो यूनियन वाले हो। सो दिस काइंड ऑफ मारा मारी फॉर झंडा वी सॉ। सो ये न्यू सिंबल्स जो फैशन सिंबल्स के तौर पे सामने आई, झंडा, बैज, बैनर। अच्छा, धरना रैली को तो ऐसे समझते थे कि ये तो वेलों का काम है। यूनियंस वर नॉट वेरी पॉपुलर अमंग पंजाब यूथ। यूनियन के अंदर, किसान यूनियन के अंदर तो बुजुर्ग लोग जाया करते थे, यंगस्टर्स लोग कहाँ जाते थे यूनियन के? वो समझते हमारा काम ही नहीं है यूनियन में जाना, यूनियन चलानी तो बूढ़ों पे काम है, और वो भी वो जो कहीं के विक्टिम हो। सो उसकी बजाय यूनियन एक ट्रेंड कि हम लोग मिल के कुछ कर सकते हैं, मिल के हम चेंज कर सकते हैं, दिस आइडिया। तो ये इस पूरे प्रोटेस्ट में मुझे लगता है ऐसी चीजें हैं जो विच आर द टेकअवेज ऑफ दिस प्रोटेस्ट। हम जीते हम हारे, ये तो हम जीत चुके हैं, ये तो हम लोगों ने हासिल कर लिया। दिस विल बिल्ड अ न्यू पंजाब।
Absolutely. So, Ranjit, I was wanting to come to you. I'm glad you raised your hand.
Yes, I would like to add to what both of them have said, Rohit and Kanwaljeet. And first of all, Kanwaljeet, I totally agree with you and strongly agree that class divisions must go.
Must go.
And this pride about being either a Jat or a Brahmin, it brings around class divisions. So there is no place for them in this society, and never should have been in any society to begin with. And secondly, I feel that one of the, whether these 3 laws, the black laws, whether they are repealed or not, a great amount of social change is already on the way because of this mass movement. And one beautiful and wonderful thing that this movement has done, that it has contradicted the very disappointing trends on a national level, which were promoting communalism, which were promoting class divisions also. Even these 3 laws would have worsened the class divisions if they come into being. So what has happened? They have put up in the dharnas or in the camps, the agitation camps, they have brought up some new social dynamics, which are reaching out across religions, across states, across caste divides. And we see interclass, intercommunal collectivism, which is a snub to the center. And the second snub is that where we see democratic values going for a toss, it has been an amazing show of democracy here in the camps, where so many different jathebandis or groups have functioned together, come together to take collective decisions and functions, and without any one pivot leader who is leading them. That's an amazing thing. I can hardly find this kind of an example in the world's history. Where mostly there would be one heroic figure and everybody revolves around him and they listen to him. But there's nobody here. And people are still working together in peace. So I think that these are huge takeaways.
Yes.
And secondly, again, the gender divisions have melted away a lot. Women and girls from rural areas who had never seen this kind of a huge multicultural, multilingual gathering, they have been exposed to it. They have also taken up responsibilities for men who have been on the dharna, taken decisions, gone into the fields. So they have also come up with a new confidence. And it has been beautiful, like Kanwaljeet mentioned, that there have been no cases of eve teasing. So you can imagine the kind of self-confidence it must have brought to the young women who have been there to entertain, to also to say out their poems, to sing revolutionary songs.
Yes.
So it has really been wonderful in that way. And another thing is that lately the youth of Punjab, it had been not very well spoken of. The people were speaking about them in terms of drug addiction or alcohol addiction, and how fantastically they have organized their camps, how fantastically they have chipped in to raise a whole township over there, to take care of it, to cook, to take care of the older people, to manage everything. It all really is exemplary, I think.
So I know that, we were talking last time we spoke about कि जिਵੇਂ मोर्चा चाहे ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਤੀਆ ਚਾहे ਨਾ ਜਿੱਤੀਏ ਇਹ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਤ ਹੀ ਗਏ ਆ ਮਤਲਬ ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਈ but so many positives have come out of it and
absolutely.
And I wish that more people would understand it, and it's nice that we all are talking about it on this platform, but sometimes I wish that it could go to people who actually still think that the morcha is confined to a small space. Yes, Rohit?
Sorry, I keep
No, that's brilliant. That's what
I have a short memory, that's why I have to kind of say my...
No, that's brilliant.
So this is actually with thanks to Mr. Sainath. Please convey my regards to him, Soumya, and Mr. Devendra Sharma.
Yes.
A few of my friends have actually put this together.
Wow.
It's a beautiful booklet which actually explains why are India's farmers protesting, and the 3 farm laws explained, and you'll find this on a website called indiaspeaks.info. And the PDF is available over there. Anybody can download it, anybody can print it, just to back what you're saying, that more people need to know about this. So this website has a lot of videos, like on the ground reportage, interviews with the farmers from all the borders, and it also has this. And what I've found is you can message this to people, but 8 out of 10 messages people don't even read. But if you have this and you hand it to them, like, how are you going to tear up something that has been printed nicely and it's on glossy paper and it's well illustrated, and it has citations from Mr. Sainath, from Amartya Sen, from Devendra Sharma, so I think we need to use stuff like this to share the facts and spread the information.
Yeah, what we do is, obviously, once we finish the conversation, we put it on YouTube. We might even we'll put a copy of this on our YouTube channel. It's now I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was saying. No, that's fine. Oh yes, we were talking about it, weren't we, Rohit, about the way it's consumed us as activists, all of us, and how we need to sometimes take a step back and reflect on where we are as a society, and how we should, all of us here, I mean, all five of us here, and including everybody who's watching us, we need to sort of recharge ourselves. So we were talking, this is slightly digressing from the topic, but Rohit was telling me about how he's taken to keyboard, keyboards to vent his... When you go and visit the borders, will you tell us something about when you go to the borders, you take some of your friends with you, and how they feel and what is their reaction when they come back?
There's no substitute for actually going there. and standing in the middle of it all. So every time I go, I try and give 2 days notice, and I put out a message saying, I'm going to Tikri. Who wants to come with me? I'll pick you up. I'll take you there. I'll bring you back. And I'm really happy to say people have been coming. And once you actually see, you know, the hugeness of the thing, it changes your perspective. Then those people go and talk to many more people. But just your point about, you know, I'm very careful when I talk about burnout, because my burnout is nothing compared to the burnout that the people living over there are facing. I mean, those people are an inspiration. There is one of the, Kanwaljeet, you would know about her, you know, the lady who manages the stage at Tikri border. Jasdeep ma'am, you know, she hasn't been home. She hasn't been home since it began. She gets up every morning at 4 o'clock, does the dishes from the night before, gets to the stage, manages that, comes back and works some more. I don't know how she does it. You know, so she's an inspiration. But, you know, I have talked to people over there who, look, we are all humans over here, you know, and the people at the protest are also human. And I think you know, it is very important to also focus on the mental well-being of the people over there, because as it is, they've been fighting a battle for their survival, and now they're staying on the road. So the pressure on them is intense. And unfortunately, we've also seen, you know, the tragedy of people taking their lives because of depression. So I think, for us, it's very important, like whenever we go there, to just cheer people up, encourage them, take them a little something. What I've been doing of late is taking badminton rackets along and giving them to people as a thoda badminton khel lo, carom khel lo. Oh, it's lovely to see, you know, old Sikh farmers playing badminton. Gets your serotonin flowing, gets the feel chemical going in your brain, gives you a little bit of strength. In the same way, I think for people who've been involved with this protest, it's sort of important to pull back from time to time, right? And realize that, as somebody said, I mean, I know there are atheists and believers, but somebody once said something quite funny. They said, I've learned 2 things in life. There is a God, and I'm not him. In other words, I can't solve the world's problems, but I can do what I can. And the idea is not to burn out. The idea is to keep, you know, stepping back, not for just enough to kind of get your strength back. Do the things that keep you inspired, that bring you back to life, and go back in there. Because as the farmers at the Morcha will remind you every single time, ये लंबी लड़ाई है. ये बहुत समय तक चलेगी. इसको जीतने में टाइम लगेगा. So I think we need to pace ourselves and watch out for burnout.
इसमें मैं एक चीज जस्ट इंट्रोड्यूस के तौर पे, कि जैसे ये जो बात रोहित जी ने उठाई कि we need to keep people informed, we need to keep people entertained, we need to also reduce their screen time. ये हमें एक बात लगी. तो एक हम लोगों ने एफर्ट किया है, सौम्या इज आल्सो अलोंग इन दैट टीम. तो हमने एक वहां पे शुरू किया है trolleyradio.com. तो ये भी एक ऐसा ही एफर्ट है कि बेसिकली हम उसमें अभी भी आप लगाएंगे तो इस वक्त टॉक्स चल रही होंगी. ट्रॉली रेडियो में 24 आवर्स कुछ ना कुछ चलता रहता है. तो हम क्या कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि लोगों को कि एक तो ऑथेंटिक मटेरियल चला जाए, इंफॉर्मेटिव भी हो और एंटरटेनिंग भी हो. मतलब उसमें गाने भी चलते हैं, उसमें हर टाइम सिर्फ भाषण नहीं चलते हैं, उसमें गाने चलते रहते हैं, शोज चलते रहते हैं. सम यंग आरजेज, एस्पायरिंग आरजेज, दे हैव वॉलंटियर्ड और उन्होंने कुछ टॉक्स तैयार की हैं उसके लिए. तो वो भी इसी एंगल से हम लोगों ने एक बनाया वहां पे कि रेडियो चले. बेसिकली रेडियो है वो, तो उसका नाम रखा है हम लोगों ने ट्रॉली रेडियो. सो इट इज trolleyradio.com. तो वो भी मुझे लगता है कि जितने भी लोग हमारे को वॉच कर अभी दोज आर वाचिंग और लिसनिंग टू अस, तो एक बार जरूर विजिट करके देखें.
I think ये सब चीजें जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, it's very important. We've touched upon mental health. There's also organizations that we've been in touch with where they are giving support. There are organizations who are offering, hopefully will be tying up with doctors and psychologists. And that's why I think where Ranjit has also said she might want to pitch in. So to have like consultations, maybe it's online because everyone's got smartphones, on Zoom, talk to people. But I think sabse badi baat ye hai, we were talking about the change, and the change so far, yes, Soumya.
So I'm sorry to
no, that's
but in the previous conversation since we were talking about gender sensitization and how Kanwaljeet ji feels that there's a ground being set for people in Punjab to become feminist in their approach for the future, and how Ranjit ma'am felt that in the course of 2 months or in the course of last few months, there have been no cases of eve teasing as a general phenomena, which we even have seen in Chandigarh. So in the Gary route, we have seen people coming down, uh, horning at you and all of that stuff. That is not happening there at the border.
Wow.
No doubt that Singh border has been very empowering for women like me who are going out there, because there is support of a lot of young activists and a lot of young women activists, so to say, across party lines and across ideologies, who just come together. And you know that since there's a community feeling around in all the borders, you know that you are safe in that space. You are safer than what you would be inside the border.
Okay.
Outside Delhi borders, inside, what I mean by border is, if we go to Delhi, from Delhi, outside the border in the protest side, we are safer.
Wow.
We are safer from the streets of Delhi in the protest side. But being said that, I it's still important to not unsee the patriarchy that still exists in Punjab, and not just Punjab, everywhere actually.
Everywhere.
So, in this sense, also the protest has been remarkably unique and progressive, since for the first time in the protest side, there were call out of the men who were using protest site for their predatory and ableist behavior, who were harassing women out there, who were threatening. In the course of even the last few months, last 1 month, there have been call outs of people who have been predating, who have been harassing people like Varun Chauhan and Mohammed Zubair and Manish Kumar. Few of them have been from certain organizations as well, like progressive organizations of Yogendra Yadav and Student for Society. And the thing is, after the call out, there have been a conversation in the border that are the women who are calling out such ableist and misogynist and homophobic and these kind of men, by calling them out, are we demeaning or maligning the campaign, or are these men maligning the campaign by the ableist and misogynist and sexist and predatory behavior? And to my surprise, all these women who have been somehow victims or survivors of harassment have come together in the protest site and have decided that we will have a woman still out there. We are the victims and we are the survivors of the harassment, and we are going to make sure that no other woman who comes to the protest site faces the same. Or because I mean, it's a part of society and we cannot hide away from it. It's going to happen everywhere. The only thing in our hand is how do we deal with it. And for the very first time, I see within the protest site, people are dealing with it so maturely. They are coming out with conversation around it. They are condemning it. They are distancing themselves from such men. And women especially are not being isolated. They are coming together. They're getting empowered. The conversation is rolling. And I've never seen this anywhere in any other protest ever. So, I mean, obviously, such incidents are not good, but these things do happen. And the way we have seen the reaction in last few days, that is amazing. And that is really creating hope in a lot of young women who would further want to come to the protest side, not fearing that maybe misogynist and ableist men would predate over them, or they would have a support system in the protest side of young and empowering women.
Great. Rohit, you wanted to comment?
Just as Soumya is saying, in the latest edition of Trolley Times, on the back page is a very powerful letter that one of the co-editors and one of the founders of Trolley Times, Navkiran Nath, you know, the dentist who became an activist, I believe you hosted her before.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
She has written I think one of the most moving letters I have, and one of the bravest letters I have ever read, where she talks about, you know, when it all started coming to light and what she went through and the choices she had to make and how they dealt with that situation. I think, Soumya, you'll probably agree with me, that's an education in how to handle a situation like this. I mean, it is amazing. You know, I think somebody very wise once said and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
Like, and that is what actually has given me more hope than ever for the protest, because here we are not afraid of calling anything. Because if it's
Exactly.
wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And we're not going to compromise for the name and the image, right? So
Yeah.
I think, if anything, it is a tremendous affirmation of the sincerity of the intent of this protest and its integrity.
That's great. Do you have anything to add to that, Ranjit, about what we are just talking about? Women empowerment. I can't hear you.
She's muted. Unmute her, please.
I've not. She's done it herself. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now I
Once
can't.
again.
I can't.
Ranjit ma'am, press it once only. You have pressed it twice.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's all. That's fine.
So, the question was for me?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I wanted to say is that the first and foremost step towards women empowerment is for them to have the freedom of raising a voice, to be heard anywhere and everywhere, whether it is a protest site, whether egos are at stake, or whether honor is at stake. So if they are able to come together to each other's support, and they are able to speak out and they are heard, that is very important. And no place is totally kosher.
Yes.
No gatherings with thousands of people can be expected to work very piously or in a very disciplined manner. There will always be some people of some kind. We must understand that these are different people coming from different places, all kinds of people. There are no filters whatsoever. There's no screening who is coming there. So we cannot totally rule out any kind of unpalatable experiences or behavior forms, but it is very good. In fact, I feel that this is also a training for women. They must learn to stand up to these kinds of behaviors, to face them and to negate them and to fight them. They cannot be protected all the time. They should not be protected all the time. They must learn to take these on and how to face them and how to protest against them. So I think it's very healthy that they are being heard and they are raising their voices.
So we've spoken. Sorry, yes, yeah.
Just wanted to add, मतलब ये एक नोट करने वाला ही मामला है जो सौम्या ने भी बात की अभी, कि पहले तो ये बात लगता था कि ये सवाल उठाया जाएगा कि अगर महिलाएं किसी को कॉल आउट कर रही हैं इस प्रोटेस्ट में, तो इट विल बी मेलाइनिंग द इमेज ऑफ द प्रोटेस्ट या इट विल बी डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग द प्रोटेस्ट. तो लेकिन जब ये एक्चुअली किया गया, व्हेन दे कॉल्ड आउट, एक्चुअली देयर इज नो सच एनीथिंग कमिंग फ्रॉम लार्जली फ्रॉम एनी सेक्शन कि आपको चुप रहना चाहिए था, बल्कि उल्टा everybody was like, hey, this is something you have done, an act of bravery. तो एक तो ये उसमें एक नई चीज जो लगा कि ओवरऑल जब सोसाइटी के सामने बात आई, जब सबने सोचा और सोच के जब उस पे एक्ट किया तो सही ही किया. एक तो ये बात. और दूसरा मुझे ये भी लगता है कि जैसे मैम ने भी अभी जिक्र किया कि कोई फिल्टर तो है नहीं. हजारों लोग आ रहे हैं, लेकिन एक मजेदार बात ये है देखने वाली कि वो जो हजारों लोग आ रहे हैं उनको नहीं कॉल आउट किया गया. अभी कॉल आउट जो हुआ वो तो जो वहां पे जैसे ट्रॉली टाइम्स का को एडिटर, जैसे स्टूडेंट फॉर सोसाइटी का एक मेंबर, सीनियर एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी मेंबर, तो कॉल आउट तो अभी वो लोगों को किया गया जिनके ऊपर जिम्मेदारी है वहां पे ऑर्गेनाइज करने की, या हु आर बेयरिंग दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वॉलंटरली. अगर उनमें कहीं कोई गलती है तो उसको हाईलाइट किया गया अभी. सो थिंग्स हैव स्टार्टेड क्लियरिंग फ्रॉम द टॉप. तो वहां से क्लियर होंगी तो मेरे ख्याल से अभी नीचे कॉल आउट करने वाला तो जरूरत भी नहीं पड़ी उस रूप में जो हम बात कर रहे हैं. तो ये तो एक पर्टिकुलर जो जैसे प्रेडेटरी बिहेवियर की बात आई वहां पे, तो वो तो एक पर्टिकुलर क्वार्टर से आई, तो उस क्वार्टर में ही उसको एड्रेस भी किया गया. और मुझे जो लगता है अच्छी बात जो कहने वाली है कि जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस ये जो जुड़े हुए हैं, इन्होंने कम से कम उनको कहीं से ऐसी कोशिश कोई नहीं आई कि इन इंस्टीट्यूशंस ने किसी को बचाने की कोशिश की हो, ऐसा कहीं नहीं हुआ। उन्होंने बिल्कुल ओपनली दे सपोर्टेड द लेडीज जिन्होंने ये उठाया सवाल। तो ये भी एक मुझे लगता है कि एक अच्छा फीचर है जो हुआ। तो लेकिन ये सब तभी हुआ अगर किसी ने सवाल उठाया, उठता ही ना तो होना भी क्या था।
So I think it's giving everybody a voice. I mean, that's the most important thing. सब लोग बात कर रहे हैं इसके बारे में, डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, openly डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, and what better outcome than this from this whole मोर्चा? सौम्या कुछ कह रही थी आप?
I mean, as you said, it is giving voice and everyone is speaking about it. We all know, अब जैसे आपने starting में भी कहा था that you have started reading गुटका साहिब इन दिनों में. We know the presence of women and what spirituality they bring to the protest at all the borders. So they're the ones who would be sitting जहाँ पे stage लगा हुआ है, you see the audience full of women. And जब भी आप किसी tent में जाओ, they would be talking, मतलब most of them, or at least a big chunk of them, do not really know what the laws are about. But they are there and they are the backbones of the movement. The women in the protest site are, मतलब in the each and every tent you go, they'd be saying things like, "Asi to nanak de putt hai, asi nahi jana, asi apne hak leke jana," and things like that. So the presence of women in these protests are so overwhelming that it has not become a male-dominated space at all. And if the women would not be at these protest sites, the protest would die out in a day. So they are sustaining it, of course.
More power.
I agree. Yeah.
So they are the sustaining force behind the protest, and of course, they are not quiet and they are not just listening everything. They're also sharing their experiences and they're also raising voices.
So I think has anyone got anything sort of really burning to add? We've had very positive discussion about how it has changed us, changed the society, how we are moving in the right direction. And there are seeds that have been sown for the younger generation who are 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds are speaking up. And what can be more positive than that? It's very, very heartening. And for people who can't be there, it's just giving us this snapshot of what is happening and how grateful are we sitting so far away that we can see this is happening. So I just want that this should be shared with people who still think कि contained है, controlled है, कुछ नहीं है, खत्म हो गया है, दिल्ली के लोग ही वहाँ और जाए. So हाँ जी, तुसी कुछ कहना है कमलजीत? Oops.
नहीं, I was just talking.
Does anyone? Ranjit.
There is one point or one warning that I would like to share with everybody, that the massive success of this protest has been because of people building bridges across variants and things which have been used to divide them. So let us be very careful not to ever fall into that trap again. Let us be careful not to give it any religious hues, any regional hues, or any other hues related to caste or class at all. That would sabotage the whole movement. That is all that I have to say.
That's great. Does Soumya, do you have like a parting comment? Anything that you want our viewers to take away? Have a think. I mean, you've really spoken so articulately about so many things.
So
I would
want the viewers to take away is that we are going strong and we are here and we are not going back. As much as I know, we are not going back without. Then when this pandemic has hit a second wave on the there is second wave of pandemic in India, right? After coronavirus and the cases rise up again. There is also now environment being created about a clean hunt project, which would now be at farmers' protest, and they would be probably evacuated from the protest site. While on the other hand, Kumbh Mela is going on and election campaign is going on. So the takeaway that I would like the viewers to take is that we are here, everything is in Chardi Kala, and we are not going anywhere. The protest is as strong as ever, and we would not go back without repealing these black laws.
Okay, great. Rohit, I'm coming to you. Any words of wisdom?
एक बार आइए.
Oh, wonderful.
सिर्फ एक बार.
That's wonderful.
Just come once. And don't believe a word of what we are saying, but you come and see for yourself.
Okay.
And I think you'll get your answers.
Okay, thank you. Kanwaljeet, तुसी कुछ कहना चाहोगे?
मैं तो हाँ इतना ही कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जो मैम ने भी एक अच्छा राइडर लास्ट में दिया कि पहली बार पंजाब और हरियाणा में नई पॉलिटिक्स में नया मुहावरा आया है। पहले क्या होता था कि पंजाब में किसी को भी पॉलिटिक्स करनी है तो सबसे पहले यहाँ से शुरू करना है कि ये हरियाणा वाले साडा पानी ले जाएंगे, हरियाणा साडे तो निकल गया, and all these things. Or maybe most probably Haryana politicians must be doing the same thing in Haryana there. But पहली बार ये पंजाब हरियाणा एकता has become the currency.
Okay.
So despite all efforts of some quarters, ये डिवाइड करने के बीजेपी ने कोशिश की कि ठीक इन्हीं दिनों के अंदर पानी के मुद्दे के ऊपर हरियाणा के अंदर मतलब धरना लगा दें। तो हरियाणा के खुद लोगों ने ही उनको पीट दिया कि ये नहीं चलेगा इस वक्त, आज की डेट में ये तुम क्यों उठा रहे हो। सो उस पूरी पुरानी लॉन्ग पेंडिंग पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज को भी नए लोगों की एकता में से, लोगों के आपसी सहयोग में से सुलझाने के जो रास्ते हैं वो भी नए एक मेरे ख्याल से इस मूवमेंट के दौरान पैदा हो रहे हैं। और ये जो पेंडेमिक की बात एक बहुत जोर से की जा रही है, देखिए हमने वहां बसा लिए हैं अपने गांव, ये है हमारी रिहाइश की जगह, तो अपनी रिहाइश में से तो किसी को नहीं निकाला जा रहा। इवन अगर ये पेंडेमिक है भी, अगर कल को कोई लॉकडाउन की बात भी अगर कहीं सोची जा रही है तो लॉकडाउन में ऐसा तो नहीं है ना लोगों को उनके घरों से निकाल दिया जाता है। भाई बॉर्डर पे हमारे घर हैं, आप उनमें से हमें निकालने की अगर सोच रहे हो तो फिर बहुत गलत सोच रहे हो, फिर आपको बहुत बड़ा भुलेखा है आपको अपनी ताकत के बारे में। और ये लोगों को अगर ऐसा महसूस करवाने की कोशिश भी की जाएगी पूरे लार्जर इंडिया को कि पंजाब के किसान कहीं आपके लिए कोरोना ब्रीड कर रहे हैं वहां पे, तो हम बता दें उनको कि अगर सचमुच में इतना जितना प्रचार और हवा क्रिएट किया गया था, अगर सब कुछ वैसा ही होता तो लाशें बिछ चुकी होती हमारी अब तक बॉर्डर पे, जितने दिनों से हम वहां पे इकट्ठे हैं, 4 महीने हो चुके हैं, तो सेकेंड वेव तो अभी शुरू हुई है। तो इसलिए ऐसा जो परसेप्शन एक बिल्ड की जा रही है कि शायद कोरोना के नाम पे हमें हटा दिया जाएगा, इतना आसान नहीं है हम लोगों को वहां से हटाना। डटे हुए हैं और लड़ेंगे अंत तक, आखिरी सांस तक लड़ेंगे।
एब्सोल्युटली। सो बड़ी पॉजिटिव आपा एंड कर रहे हैं, वेरी पॉजिटिव नोट, डटे हुए हैं, वी आर हियर, नॉट गोइंग एनीवेयर, लेट्स बी यूनाइटेड, एक बार आइए। That's my, I think, the tagline that I'm going to take back. एक बार आइए। So everybody who's watching us, जो भी सानू देख रहे ने, जिथे भी बैठे हो तुसी, हुण मेरे वर्गा पता नहीं शायद मैनू फ्लाइट ही नहीं मिल रही, एक फ्लाइट आंदी है from where I live to, and नौकरियां भी करनियां ने, so we can't just leave everything and come. That's all we are trying to do to increase social awareness. But please जेड़े जा सकते ने एक बार जाइए, एक बारी जाओ प्लीज सारे जाने। That's my plea, my request to everybody. And can I just say something? You guys have been absolutely wonderful. It's an honor to be here and listening to you all. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll probably do some more panels. So thank you. Sat Sri Akal and Chardi Kala. Thank you.
I hugely appreciate the effort that you are making. It will go a long way, and even though you are sitting far away, you are still so close to us and close to the protest. A huge thank you to you. Sat Sri Akal and Chardi Kala to the Morcha.
Thank you, Chardi Kala to the Morcha. Sat Sri Akal. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.